Uselessness and Laziness. Uselessness and laziness lived happily together until somewhere down the line they were somewhat at odds. Ambition had stayed a while and somehow cramped their style. He'd left no forwarding address, and all he'd left behind was stress. Stress had visited before, and he knew something wasn't right. So he tried his best to tire them out and dispel any urge they had not to fight. Uselessness complained she was never lost for words, but when it came to getting things done, she'd mess things up and spoil all the fun. Laziness couldn't be bothered because he was not inclined to work. It wasn't that he was tired, but rather never felt inspired. He called her useless, and she called him lazy, and from the way they carried on, you'd think they were crazy. They eventually accepted their lives were a mess, but unfortunately neither knew how best to seek redress. So they gathered all their friends together, which both of them thought was really rather clever. Premature and untimely were the first to arrive. The meeting was at 8, and it was only 5:30. Lack of self-esteem. Do you know who I mean? Well, she turned up with no self-worth. They decided to get married since she'd given birth. Stupidity and foolishness had reached the end of their tether. It was a hot summer's day, and they were both wearing leather. Frustration and irritation were dating once again. She'd constantly nag, and he'd continuously complain. Confusion came alone. He'd left chaos back at home. Chaos didn't care. They were a disorderly pair. Disgrace and shame were both embarrassed when they came. He would hide, and she would lie low. They kept looking at the time to see when they could go. Sluggish and slothful were the last to arrive, and from the rate they were moving, you wouldn't think they were alive. They each made their way from the ground floor entrance into the lounge. But the lounge proved far too small, so anyone who was anyone returned to the hall. When Slothful arrived, he hadn't bothered to shut the door, so everything could be heard from the ground to the 7th floor. They debated and negotiated, but their efforts were all in vain. Mind you, this is hardly surprising considering they were driving themselves insane. A gathering of uselessness, laziness, stress, premature, untimely, lack of self-esteem, no self-worth, stupidity, foolishness, frustration, irritation, confusion, chaos, disgrace, shame, slothful and sluggish, all got together to decide what was best, then give it a try. Oh dear. So what do you do when you're confused and under stress, and you say to yourself, your life is just one big mess? Your decisions have been untimely, your ambitions proved premature, and the way you feel right now, you can only take so much more. You feel disgraced and a sense of shame because there's no one out there you feel you can blame. You appear withdrawn and insecure. You lack all self-esteem. You tell yourself not to worry, however, because it was just a silly old dream. And now you're just irritated and have labelled yourself crazy. You can't think of what to do anymore. You've become sluggish, slothful and lazy. You're frustrated with the chaos and no longer have any self-worth. You've even started believing there's no purpose to life on earth. You feel stupidity and foolishness have both got the better of you. And now you seem so useless because you just don't know what to do. Misery loves company, and no doubt you do too. But beware of who you choose and those who choose you. Check their CVs and previous abode. It's a way of protecting your future and guiding you on the road. Ask them to leave one by one if they encourage negativity or keep spoiling your fun. Pleasure and delight sometimes go out at night. Consideration and care must both live somewhere near. Find purpose and direction. They're a large family and there's a selection. Entertain love, peace and joy. Those three are hardly likely to annoy. The truth about it all is that there are some emotions that can blind. But at the end of the day, you've only got one body, spirit and mind. So set yourself apart from the things that give you strife and set yourself free to follow the way, the truth and the life.